This is Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling with Platinum against AEW Dark. This is for August 3rd, 2021. It was episode 100. Oh my gosh, I covered those too. It's kind of crazy. Episode 100, which I saw it on the first run where it had the Max Caster rap. I've been kind of noting that those raps, especially once they started getting on the Julia Hart stuff, I think it's great that they're freestyles. It's great that, I get that they're trying to remain heel, but those raps have definitely lost an element that is crucial to the Acclaim's success in the future, which is fun. They stopped being fun about a month ago, and you just can't do it. They hit that high point of doing that one against Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. But there's a very fundamental element to wrestling that I've talked about before, but it bears repeating, and that is justice served. And if they're allowed to continue to sort of do these raps where they're making references just to offend, and it feels like there isn't any kind of retribution that is relatively swift, honestly, it loses that fun element, which was a big part of why the Acclaimed got such a huge reaction once crowds started coming back en masse. And I was there for those shows live. I don't think when I watched it, I went, the crowd isn't really responding to these. They're not enjoying them. And even as heels, they're getting definitely the wrong kind of heat. So I know I'm going on and on about that, but that's the big story coming out of this Dark. It was 11 matches, an hour and a half long. And let's go. Excalibur and Taz are there for the 100th episode of AEW Dark. And we go right into a match, which is really great. Ricky Starks is there and making his return to commentary. And they make a big deal about him being FTW champion. So maybe something will happen with that title after all. We got Chuck Taylor, Orange Cassidy, and Wheeler Utah with Chris Statlander at ringside against the Wingmen with Peter Avalon. Do I call this competitive? It's tough. I would say no, because it is a foregone conclusion, and at no point do I feel like they were in jeopardy. Utah gets Drake in that crucifix pin for the win in a very good match. So I'll give this 3 check marks. They get a check mark for a team going over in definitive fashion, and you'll say, well, crucifix pin, that's how Utah's been winning, by the way. A second check mark if they look good in the process, and the babyfaces certainly did. And a third check mark if the heels are given a disproportionate, or the other side is given a disproportionate amount of offense or look good in the process. And I'd say both happened here. Post-match, Avalon runs in and attacks Utah. He eats the orange punch and then an awful waffle. And then they do the big hug from 4 corners. Cool. We got Jack Evans cutting a promo and sending out a warning to Pac. Sweet. And now we have the match. Jack Evans with a bunch of people from the Hardy Office family. I think that's right. Versus Pac, who is joined by Penta, Ray, and Alex Abrahantes. A good match. I'll call it a competitive match. That Sky Twister press to the outside was bananas. In the end, Pac gets the brutalizer on and Evans taps out. So for competitive matches, 3 things, right? Did both people look good in the match? They most certainly did. Did somebody win in definitive fashion? Pac certainly did. And was something advanced? Well, I'd say yes, because at the end, Andrade's music plays and he comes out with Chavo Guerrero, and they're looking to fight. Death Triangle's waiting for them, and then they walk away and leave Pac disappointed. So something was definitely advanced in the course of this whole thing, so that's a 3rd check mark. Red Velvet is backstage. She says she's on the hottest run of her career. She's in the top 5 again, and she's going to see Britt Baker, DMD, really, really soon. Cool. Nice promo, especially for Dark. I think it definitely works. Tay Conti against Kenzie Page, who returns, which is nice to see. Tay Conti kind of eats her up, though. Wins with the DDT. 3 check marks, though. Page does look good here. I think her ring work is improving by leaps and bounds and much smoother than I'd seen her previously. So that's good. Jake Hager is replacing Starks on commentary, because he says it's not over betwixt him and Wardlow. So we got Fuego del Sol and Sean Dean against the Pinnacle. This version, Sean Spears and Wardlow. This is really about Sean Spears doing most of the work to show his ring work, and Wardlow there to take it home. But Sean Dean, is there giving him the good part of the match, really doing a good job. Fuego is kind of beat up, and Sean Dean is there to look better out of the two on the team. But it is exactly what it's supposed to be. 3 check marks, moving on. And now we just have Excalibur and Taz on commentary. We get Hikaru Shida against Maddie Max. Maddie Max looks all right here. At the end of the day, though, she gets flattened by the katana, the running knee, and it is what it is. Max didn't really avail herself in this match, so I'll give it the first check marks, but not the third, so we're not going to sweep out for episode 100 here. Lucha Brothers, of course, with Alex Abrahantes and Pac against Chaos Project. I'll call this, you know what, they get the full entrance here, so I'm going to call this competitive. Did both sides look good here? Not, I think Serpentico does that job. Luther, though, I mean, at this point, it's great that he's got a gig. It's great that he's doing what he's doing, and they use him appropriately enough. I just didn't think, obviously he's kind of bringing up hind tit to the Lucha Brothers and Serpentico here. So I won't give it the first check mark, but I will certainly give it the second. And Serpentico honestly does such a good job, I'll go ahead and give them the third, but only 2 check marks in this one. Max Caster. We'll not talk about that rap, but we'll call this a competitive match because we have the Acclaimed with Matt Hardy and the Blade, the Bunny at ringside, against Matt and Mike Seidel, the Varsity Blondes, with Julia Hart at ringside. Did both sides look good in the match? Absolutely. Did the one team go over in definitive fashion? Sure. Yeah. Blade using those brass knuckles, and then was something advanced? Absolutely, because the Hardy family office beat down the Seidels. Jurassic Park ran them off. The Acclaimed are there. Varsity Blondes combined to take them out. I do think that they missed an opportunity to kind of have something happen between Julia Hart and the Bunny Moore at ringside. I do think they missed that opportunity, but I'll give it 3 check marks. Diamante against Layla Hirsch. I'll definitely call this a competitive match, and it was one of the better matches on this card. Did they both look good? Yes, that's a check mark. Did somebody win in definitive fashion? Yes, I'm a little shocked that Layla Hirsch won with her arm breaker in kind of a battle of submissions, and was something advanced. I think most definitively, because Big Swole comes out and brawls with Diamante. Now, granted, the Big Swole presence was a big factor in the sense of they really played up the Diamante being distracted at the thought and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, 3 check marks. Jon Moxley against Brick Aldridge. Definitely not what you would call a competitive match, but Moxley's always good about giving you a little something. But a check mark for Moxley winning. He gets that rear naked choke. So that's definitely another check mark in his favor, and then he'd make sure, and Brick Aldridge does a good job of making himself look good here, so we'll give that 3 check marks. Penelope Ford against Reka Tehaka in a 3-minute match that I thought served its purpose nicely, didn't expose anybody, and it was a good solid match. The women are going to these submissions, and Penelope Ford doing the Muda Lock, I think she looks really good doing it. She gets that huge high bridge. So I'm not mad at it. I like this thing where the women tend to be going towards submissions, all of them. It makes for a different kind of look from the men's matches for sure. So 3 check marks, and Reka Tehaka, I think, does a very good job right here, making sure Penelope Ford looks every bit the star. Jade Cargill and Smart Mark Sterling make their way out to the ramp. More star power for the 100th episode, etc., etc., etc. Talks about Knocking Point wines, and she's going to become a wine sommelier. She's that bitch, etc., etc. Eddie Kingston against Dante Martin. This match, I guess you call it competitive. Did both sides look good? Sure. Eddie Kingston's a pro at doing matches like this, honestly. Did he win in definitive fashion? Sure. Back fist. And did something get advanced? Yeah, I think Kingston kind of putting his stamp on Martin here is one of those things that's going to possibly lead to something. Maybe not, but definitely something was attempted, so I'll give it the 3rd check mark. And that was AEW Dark's 100th episode. So cool to see. So cool.